Hi everyone, welcome to North Jersey Living. I'm Ross Hyman. Today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Bloomfield, New Jersey. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Bloomfield, it is a small town about 12 miles west of Manhattan, and it is undergoing a revitalization. There's a lot happening in Bloomfield. It's a very interesting historic town. We're going to tell you a little bit about the pros and cons. Feel free to check out our other videos about Bloomfield. We have a Bloomfield vlog that shows you some of the homes that are available here at different price points. We also have a map video that's going to take you through the area on a Google map, and we're excited to tell you all about it. Now, if you like videos like this and you want to see more, please like and subscribe below. Or if you'd like to reach us because you're moving to Northern New Jersey and you're looking to find out more about the areas, the towns in Northern New Jersey, feel free to call us, text us. Our email address is below, or you can even set up a Zoom call with us through our Calendly link, which is below. Also, if you're from the area and you're selling a home, Greg and I help people like you every day to sell homes. We'd be happy to talk to you as well. You can use the same contact information that's below. So with that being said, let's get right into it. All right, well, the first pro that we're going to talk about is location. So you heard me mention in the introduction that Bloomfield is about 12 miles from New York City. That is, of course, as the crow flies, that's not driving distance. In fact, driving distance, I think, is about 17 miles. Depends on which road you take. But Bloomfield is in a really interesting location, which I consider a sweet spot because it is close enough to Manhattan to commute if you work in New York City. You've got the Garden State Parkway literally goes right through Bloomfield, so it's very close by. It is obviously a New York City commuter town. There are 2 train stations. There are buses. There are a number of ways to get into the city and to get around in the area surrounding Bloomfield. It's bordered by Clifton, Montclair, Nutley, Belleville, Newark, Glenbridge. I believe that's all of them. So it's really interesting. It's in a really interesting location. Bloomfield itself used to be part of Newark. So I don't know if I said it borders Newark, but Newark is the southeast, borders it to the southeast. And like Montclair and Glenbridge, they were all part of Newark back in the 1600s when the area was purchased from the Lenape Indians. In fact, the Yanticaw tribe is who was bought from. They're a sub-tribe of the Lenape. Anyway, I'm not going to go too deep into the history. You can find out more about the history in some of our other Bloomfield videos. But what I will tell you is that Bloomfield has a lot to offer. There are, obviously, I mentioned the location is great. That is our first pro. There are great commuter available options, and there's also good shopping options. There's a number of shopping areas in Bloomfield where you have, local stores, mom and pop shops. There's also franchise stores that you would expect in other towns. There's shopping plazas, and of course, it's not far from other attractions and other things in the area like that we'll go into. Actually, it's another pro that I'm going to talk to you about. The location of Bloomfield is very convenient. It's convenient for whether you're commuting to New York City or whether you're commuting to a neighboring suburb for work or for family, anything like that. Like the other towns in the area, you can very easily get to shore points from here because you've got the Garden State Parkway that runs down through New Jersey. You've got the New Jersey Turnpike. You've got all the major roads, Route 280, Route 80, Route 46, Route 3, very close by. The other thing is that Bloomfield is close to the airport. It's the Newark International Airport. And so, as I mentioned, Bloomfield used to be part of Newark. So it's obviously very close to Newark, and you can get to the airport in about 20-25 minutes at most. So that's incredibly convenient for air travel. Number 2 pro is the home prices. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying it's relative. If you're from Nebraska or somewhere else in the country, you're going to think, wow, these home prices are incredibly high. But the reality of it is, compared to the other areas nearby, of course, Manhattan is going to be exceptionally more to live there. And then you've got Montclair, you've got Glen Ridge, you've got these other towns that are more expensive, but then you've got Newark and Belleville and Nutley, which are not necessarily as expensive or comparable. So it's relative. So the median home price in Bloomfield is around $675. The median home price, here's an example, the median home price in Montclair is more like, depending on the zip code, $880 to $1.1 million. That's a big difference. But then you go to towns, like I said, like Nutley, Belleville, and Newark, and you will see lower home prices in most cases. So the home prices are definitely a pro if you're looking to move to northern New Jersey and you're looking for a reasonably priced area to live in. The third pro I'm going to take you right into is green space and outdoor activities. Now, Bloomfield has the third largest park in all of Essex County. All these towns I'm talking about are in Essex County. And there's a much larger, the South Mountain Reservation is a much larger park that's further southwest. As far as in Bloomfield, they have, Brookdale Park is in Bloomfield, and that is one of the largest parks in all of Essex County. And I believe it's 120 acres or so. And inside that park, you've got soccer fields, you've got a stadium with a track around it. There are there's a really beautiful playground. There is tennis courts. There's a rose garden. I've seen archery competitions happening in there. There's so many unique things in that park. It's got everything, and a lot of people ride and run in that park as well. So ride bikes and run around and for exercise. The other thing to note about Brookdale Park is it's a hub of activity in Bloomfield. They have arts and craft fairs. There's a 4th of July fireworks celebration, which is one of the biggest in New Jersey. It's tremendous. And this year they did it, I think, on July 3rd, but it's for the July 4th holiday. They have movie night under the stars, which is a fun thing for the family. There's a summer concert series, or summer music series they call it, where this year in particular, Earth, Wind and Fire is appearing. So some major acts come to this town to play in this park, believe it or not. You've got a jazz and food truck festival. There are international food festivals. Brookdale Park is a hub of activity for Bloomfield and for all of Essex County. There are other parks. Bloomfield is the northernmost park, but there's 2 parks in the middle, which are called Brookside and Pulaski, and then there's 2 in the south end, which are Watsessing and Halcyon. So those are the major parks in the town, and there's a lot more green space in the town as well, but those are the major park areas. Also, if you're looking geographically at what activities are available in the area, Bloomfield is, I said, it's well situated. It's in a good location. So you've got things like the Willowbrook Mall north of it in Wayne. You've got I mentioned the South Mountain Reservation. You've got Eagle Rock Reservation. There's Turtleback Zoo, which are not in Bloomfield proper, but they're very close to the town, easy to get to by car. I guess you could take a bus to some of these things, like you could definitely take a bus to Willowbrook Mall. So there are things that in the surrounding areas that you're going to benefit from as well. Turtleback Zoo, incidentally, which I haven't really talked about, I don't think, in any of my other videos, is a really beautiful zoo, and it gets almost 1 million visitors a year. It's quite an attraction, and it's got some really cool things in there. For kids and even for adults. There's a butterfly walkthrough, butterfly atrium. I don't know what you call it. It's like a somewhat domed structure. You walk through it. They have giraffes there. They've got jungle cats. They have all kinds of really cool animals. And then they have some playground type areas. There's events that happen there. They even have some sort of like an outdoor what do you call that? An area where you can climb and rappel and things of that sort. And near there is an ice skating rink and a recreational center for that area. Those are in West Orange. So they're very close by. They're not in Bloomfield, but you benefit by having those nearby. Fourth pro, the schools. The schools in Bloomfield, according to niche.com, are rated on average a B+. You can check out other sources for school information as well, but that's one of the ones that I always look at. Bloomfield has 8 elementary schools. It's got 1 pre-K, dedicated pre-K, and it's got a middle school and a high school. Now the high school is huge. You know, when you go by, I think I have some footage I'll show you of the high school as I go by. And then also, in addition to the public schools, there is Bloomfield College, which is now part of the Montclair State University system. Bloomfield was a small private college on its own, and recently was acquired by Montclair State. Now, I've talked about Montclair State in some of the other videos. It is a very well-regarded state school. In fact, I think it's the largest state school in all of New Jersey. It's now got several campuses because it's got the main campus in Montclair and Little Falls, and it's got the Bloomfield campus in Bloomfield Township. So lots of great educational options. And of course, from Bloomfield, there are private schools in the area. I don't know of any major private schools in Bloomfield, but in the surrounding towns, I know there's several in Montclair, like Montclair Kimberly, and Immaculate is another one, and then Lockport Air. So there's private schools right next to Bloomfield that you can look at. And I'm sure there are some in like parochial or religious schools in Bloomfield, but I think they're much smaller. I don't think they offer all grades. Those are sort of more like pre-K or day school type things, where you know, before your kids get to the public school age. So those are things you can check out as well. Fifth Pro, there is a lot of development happening in Bloomfield. There is new construction. Wow, like in the downtown area, which is called Bloomfield Center, you will see the Royal is the latest building to go up, and the Royal is a mixed-use building that has 200 rental apartments, 14 townhomes which have been sold. In fact, I sold 4 of them. There's parking in the building, so it's got its own parking lot, but it is in fact run by Bloomfield Township. So it's a public lot that's accessible to the residents and to people from the area around. So that's something that you'll see in a lot of the new developments that are going up, especially in Bloomfield Center, which is the downtown area. Bloomfield Center has all of these new mixed-use buildings going up, I mentioned. So the Royal is one, Avalon at Bloomfield Station is another, 110 Washington. Liberty Place is a much smaller condo building down the street, and 6 Points is another one. And so 6 Points, the Royal, and Avalon all have these parking lots in the middle of them to offer parking to the residents and then for people who are visiting the area. Now, this is all part of a larger project, which is a revitalization of Bloomfield. And it's the project is called, or the group is called Bloomfield Center, and it's a group of residents and politicians and local business people that have formed to help beautify the area and to revitalize the businesses and to bring people back to Bloomfield. And it's working. I'll tell you, there's a lot of people moving to Bloomfield. I'll talk a little bit more about the population changes later in this video. The state has noticed as well. The governor of New Jersey has agreed, the governor and the legislature, I should say, have agreed to a $51 million renovation budget for the train station in downtown Bloomfield. So 2 train stations are Bloomfield Station and Watsessing Station, and they are in the center and then the south end of Bloomfield. Now, the Bloomfield train station is right in the heart of those buildings I was telling you about, the Royal, 6 Points, Avalon, Liberty Place, and 110 Washington. It's literally steps away from those buildings, specifically 6 Points and I think Avalon and Avalon and the Royal are right next to it, like across the street. So that's a really important hub for transportation in the area. And it's a big station. It's a little run down. It hasn't been revitalized. And so that's one of the next things on their hit list, is to get that renovated so that it's really an attraction, another attraction for the area. So if you're interested in moving to Bloomfield, those are some really important key pros that you would consider when you're when you're looking to move here, especially if you're going to commute to the city. When people are, moving in and out of the city, they're looking for a place that's going to make it typically easier for them to get back there. If you like the entertainment, the museums, the shows, and all the things that Manhattan has to offer, this is going to be a great place to live because you're going to have ease of access to go back there. I want to tell you all about some of the cons of living in Bloomfield, New Jersey, but before I do, just want to remind you that if you like this video and you'd like to see more like it, please like and subscribe below. If you're considering moving to Bloomfield, New Jersey, or moving out of the area and you'd like to speak to us about helping you with that, our phone number is below. You can call us, text us. Our email is there as well. And you could even set up a Zoom call with us through our Calendly link, which is below. So please take a look and give us a call if you need to find out anything more about the area. So that being said, let's move on to the cons of living in Bloomfield, New Jersey. I mentioned all the development that's going on in the area, but it also has a downside, which is that the cost of living is a big con in this area. But I've mentioned this, it's relative. It's relative to the neighboring towns. So it's not the highest, it's not the lowest, it's just going up like so many things. Home prices, there are probably, I mentioned the median home price is about $675,000. Some of the new rentals that have come on the market in these new buildings I was talking about, for example, in the Royal and in 6 Points, in those big buildings in Avalon. So the rents are definitely higher than they would be in the surrounding community because these are brand new construction. They have amenities in the buildings and convenience to the shopping that's right below, either in the building because these are mixed use properties, and also because of the proximity to the train to New York. The home prices, especially for rentals, have gone up quite a bit. The home prices, that single family homes and multifamily homes, which are very popular in this area, have gone up as well because you see this effect of the people are moving here, especially from places like Manhattan and Brooklyn and Queens, where the cost of living is so much higher. They're looking to get out of the city and looking for a place that's more affordable. Bloomfield is one of those places that they're going to check out. Migration is going to increase the cost of housing in the area, in addition to the fact that a lot of the new construction is going to drive up the costs. Other cost of living issues here are taxes, property taxes specifically. Again, it's relative, not as much as Montclair and Glen Ridge, but more generally speaking than Newark and Belleville and Nutley. And you've got a situation where all this new construction and all of the other details of the infrastructure that go into this new construction, it's a cost to the town and they have to cover that cost. They also have to consider the cost of more police and more firemen, more fire department resources and things like that. So there's a cost to growing these towns. I don't know, if you remember the game Sims, the computer game, but Sims used to, as you build a town, the cost of everything would go up. You'd have to build power plants, you'd have to build all these things, Well, they have these problems too. Every town does as they grow. The number 2 con of living in Bloomfield is population density. So, as I mentioned, this migration that might be coming from Manhattan and the surrounding areas like Brooklyn and Queens, that is causing, and all these new developments, these new buildings that have all these new units. The Royal in particular is 200 new rental units. Somebody's going to move there, and those rental units are they're luxury rentals. So people who live in Manhattan who are looking for a nice place to live, they'll find a rental there that looks like something in Manhattan that would cost you $20,000 a month to live there. And in Bloomfield, it would be, $8,000. Now, not every rentals, I'm talking about like the penthouse, the really beautiful, high-end units that have New York City views. But it still would be half to maybe a third of what it would cost in Manhattan. So the population increase is coming from places like New York City. Generally speaking, the population in Bloomfield, not knowing where anyone's coming from, has increased. 2010 census to the 2020 census, population increased by 12%, and it currently stands at around 53,000. That's the total population of Bloomfield. But there are ongoing developments in the town. So I expect that Bloomfield is going to continue to grow in population. It's going to continue to grow in density. A few other things to note is that as far as population density is concerned, is that in most of the parts of Bloomfield, in fact, the middle to the southern part of Bloomfield have smaller smaller property lots than you have in neighboring towns. So the houses are a bit closer together. In the northern part of Bloomfield, it's not as much it's not necessarily as dense, but I'm talking about like the Brookfield Park area, but in the southern parts and the midtown parts of Bloomfield, you're going to get houses that are closer together, less yard, less property, generally speaking. So there's a population density that is more an issue in the downtown to the southern part of Bloomfield. This goes along with it is traffic and congestion. So all these new developments that are going up leads to more people coming in, as we've said, but it also leads to these major infrastructure updates. I can't tell you how many times I drive down a street and it's blocked off and there's a detour. It's happening. It's not just happening in Bloomfield, but it's happening a lot in Bloomfield. When the building, the Royal, was going up, they had, they were repaving the streets, they were repaving the sidewalks, they were putting up light posts, they were planting trees. That's in addition to building the building. They were putting up electrical transformers, you name it. It had to be done to support these new developments, even sewage and plumbing and things like that, water supply, all that stuff has to be dealt with. And so that contributes to the traffic and congestion. Also contributing to that is more cars. So there are, more people parking in these municipal garages that have been built to handle the parking, but they now then have to leave and go somewhere and come back, and you've got more congestion as a result. That is a challenge. They are addressing the challenge, but nonetheless, it's something to consider. Now that leads me into the next con, which is parking. It's an interesting challenge in Bloomfield because there's a mix of things. It's not all one way. You've got meters in downtown and shopping districts. You've got, so you have to pay to park. You've got permits that are required if you're going to park overnight and you're going to be on street. And the permits can range in price from anywhere from $25 to $110 a month if you're parking in a lot or you're parking on the street. It varies greatly, so you have to check out the township's website to see the parking for the area that you want to park in. And there's a huge range. Now, the other thing to note is that some of the parking permits, they require that you purchase a 6-month permit. So you have to pay 6 months in advance. There are places to park on the street without paying, and if you have a home that has a driveway and a garage, you certainly can park in your own driveway and your own garage without any additional cost. But many parts of Bloomfield have these parking challenges, and so you have to figure out where you're going to be, what you're going to need, and you have to plan ahead. Some of the parking lots that I've been talking about that cost between $25 and $110 per month, most of them in fact have waiting lists. So if it's a train, for example, if it's a parking lot near a train station, and you want to get a monthly parking spot because you want to commute from your home and park in that parking lot before getting on the train, which a lot of people do, many of those parking lots don't even have spots available if you're not a resident in that. Like if it's for example in the Royal or in 6 Points, and you're not a resident in that building, and you want to drive there and park and get a monthly pass, it might not even be available. So when you look on the Bloomfield Township website, you can see there's waiting list after waiting list for parking spots in the popular garages that are near transportation. So that is a major con, and one that you have to think about and talk to your realtor about when you're looking to move here, because you have to plan for it ahead. The fifth con is weather. Now, I have done videos about other towns in this area. All the towns have the same challenge. But what's interesting about Bloomfield, because it's a very densely populated and more of like an urban town, it is suburban in the north, more suburban in the north of the town, and more urban in the south of the town. And by that, I just mean it's more city-like. So when you get harsh winters like we get, it can be a real challenge getting around, and parking especially. We've just talked about the parking problems, but imagine that you've got a big snowstorm and they have to plow the snow. What they do is they put it in parking spots or in driveways in places where it's supposed to be out of the way, but what it does is it further limits the parking availability. So the weather, the snow in particular, which we have up here in the Northeast and in New Jersey every winter, is one of those challenges that it affects so many things. Obviously, like I said, the parking, you've got to clear your driveway. If you're not wanting to shovel, or you feel that you don't have the stamina to shovel your driveway, especially in some of these huge storms, you have to hire a landscaping company. And the landscaping companies typically in the area won't just do snow contracts. You'll need to pay them for a year-round landscaping service, and as part of that, they'll clear your driveway. But they also then charge you, depending on the depth of the snow, an additional fee. If there's a lot of snow, you have an additional charge. So the weather can cause a number of things to occur in the area, and you have to consider that when you're moving here. We also get rain, like a lot of the Northeast in the spring, and we get tropical storms that come through here. Don't forget, New Jersey has a coast. We have the Atlantic Ocean not too far to the east, and so occasionally we get tropical storms and hurricanes that come through here. You can see on the Weather Channel or your news when storms are hitting the East Coast. New Jersey is not immune from that. So we get some challenging winters from time to time. Sometimes we get a break. We can get some really big storms here from time to time. And then in the summer, it's summer now. You can see I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt. We get a lot of heat. I've lived in Texas, and look, Texas is hotter than it is. I've lived in Florida as well. They're both hotter than it is here, but we've probably had, in the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've probably had, I don't know, 10 or 12 90+ degree days, which, you think in the Northeast it's not going to be that hot, but it is. And then because there's so much asphalt and concrete and things like that, it holds the heat. If you don't have working air conditioning, it can be a real challenge living here. So the weather is something that you have to consider if you're moving from another part of the country. If you're moving from another country, that's something to think about, is that we get all 4 seasons, and we get the best and the worst of those 4 seasons. We get, we'll have cherry blossoms blossoming in the spring, but sometimes in the spring we'll get snow right after that, and then all the cherry blossoms will die. So you have to deal with changing weather and occasional storms. Some parts of the area, because of the weather, and this in itself could be another con, but I don't need to make it another con, but there are parts of New Jersey that get flooding, and that's another thing that you must look at when you're buying a property in New Jersey, or even renting a property, is if it's in the flood zone. You have to, in some areas, you're required to have flood insurance. And we have the Passaic River that runs through the area here. We've got a lot of smaller rivers and streams and different things that run through the area, waterways and runoff areas. And so the weather can play an important role in your choice as to which town you live in, or whether you live in New Jersey at all. You have to consider that. So weather, harsh winters, hot summers tend to be a con here, but not insurmountable like any of the other issues. So that about wraps it up. I'm going to just remind you one more time, if you like this video, you want to see more like it, please feel free to like and subscribe. Or if you're moving here in 6 months, 6 weeks, doesn't matter how long, Greg and I would be happy to help you to arrange your move, to look for a property here. Or if you're looking to sell a house in the area, please feel free to give us a call. We list properties like yours all the time. All of our contact information is below, and there's a link to set up a Zoom call with us if you'd like. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time.